Jason Mercier actually holds a grudge against Vanessa Selbst, and it all started with a drunken bet worth nearly $2 million. But how does a friendly high-stakes side bet spiral into public tweets, broken trust, and a war of words? This is the story of one of poker's most bitter fallouts. Before we get into the bet that nearly destroyed their friendship, you need to understand who these two really are, and why this clash wasn't just about money. Vanessa Selbst was no ordinary poker pro. She was a Yale graduate, a former hedge fund analyst, and the most successful female player in the history of live poker tournaments. With over $11 million in earnings, Selbst had built a reputation not just on results, but on raw aggression. She was fearless, sometimes controversial, and never afraid to speak her mind, especially when she thought someone was wrong. People respected her intelligence, but many found her confrontational, even difficult. She wasn't in poker to make friends, she was in it to win. Jason Mercier, on the other hand, was everything Vanessa wasn't. Calm, soft-spoken, and relentlessly consistent. A Florida-born prodigy who quietly climbed to the top of the poker world, Mercier was the guy who made the game look easy. He wasn't chasing fame or drama, he was chasing bracelets. By the start of 2016, he already had 5 of them. Where Vanessa played with fire, Jason played with control. He was respected for his discipline, admired for his composure, and rarely caught in controversy. What's important to remember is that these two weren't just high rollers, they were also PokerStars ambassadors, public faces of the game. They represented poker to the outside world. And like any good drama, it's when two very different personalities are forced into the same spotlight that things start to crack. This wasn't just a clash between two pros, it was a collision of principles, one reckless, one calculated, and the moment money got involved, it became personal. It all began in January of 2016 at the Atlantis Resort in the Bahamas, during the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure. Vanessa Selbst was at the top of her game, riding high on confidence, and maybe more than a few drinks. That's when a bold, ridiculous idea turned into something very real. Vanessa made a prop bet with young Polish pro Dmitry Obanovic. The wager? That he couldn't win 3 World Series of poker bracelets that summer. 3 bracelets, something only 5 players in history had ever done. And Obanovic had never even played the World Series before. He put up $10,000, she risked $2 million. At the time, she brushed it off, said it was just a fun side bet, something she could afford to lose. But anyone who's been around poker long enough knows, fun doesn't stay fun when that kind of money is on the line. Word of the bet spread through the poker world fast. One person who heard it loud and clear, Jason Mercier. Jason was also at the Atlantis. He found Vanessa at a PokerStars dinner and asked if he could get in on the same action. Vanessa hesitated. Obanovic was unproven. Mercier was a 5-time bracelet winner and a favorite in every mixed game field. Giving him 200 to 1 would be suicide. Still, they talked, negotiated. Eventually, they settled on 180 to 1 odds. Mercier handed over $110,000 in cash. No lawyers, no contracts, just a handshake and a storm waiting to happen. Jason didn't make the bet for attention. He made it because he believed he could win. And Vanessa, maybe she thought it was a long shot. Maybe she didn't think he'd actually get that close. But in poker, when the cards start falling your way, anything can happen. And over the next few weeks, Jason Mercier would run hotter than he ever had in his career, and Vanessa Selbst would start to realize she might have made the biggest mistake of hers. 10 days into the World Series of Poker, it happened. Jason Mercier took down the $10,000 Deuce to 7 draw low ball championship, his first bracelet of the summer. And just like that, 1/3 of the way to Vanessa's $2 million was in the bag. Photos were taken, interviews were done, but Mercier didn't stick around to celebrate. He immediately rushed over to register for the next event, the $10,000 7-card Raz Championship. He wasn't wasting a second, the hunt was on. Meanwhile, Vanessa Selbst was starting to feel the pressure. She went public, not with confidence, but with concern. She tweeted that the bet had been a mistake, that she'd been drinking when she made it, that she tried to buy out of it earlier for just $1,000. Mercier refused, then she offered $100,000. Still no. Mercier responded too, not with sympathy, but with skepticism. He didn't believe she was drunk. He didn't think it was fair to walk back a bet just because it suddenly looked bad. In poker culture, that's one of the worst things you can do. Make a deal, then beg out when the tide turns against you. To Jason, the handshake mattered. He saw Vanessa's backpedaling as a sign of weakness, or worse, a lack of integrity. And he wasn't alone. At this point, Mercier had momentum, public support, and over $400,000 in prize money. Selbst, on the other hand, was quickly becoming the story. Not because of her play, but because of her panic. The poker world was watching, the bracelet chase was alive, and for Vanessa Selbst, things were about to get worse. Just days after his first win, Jason Mercier made another deep run. In the $10,000 7-card Raz Championship, he finished second. He was one step away from going 2 for 2. And at this point, even Vanessa Selbst had to admit, this was starting to feel real. But Jason wasn't done. He entered the $10,000 HORSE Championship, a mixed game event with a high buy-in and a smaller field, exactly the kind of tournament where Mercier thrived. As the days ticked by, he survived, and on June 17th, after more than 30 hours of play spread across 5 different poker formats, he did it. Mercier won the HORSE event, his second bracelet in a 7-day span, over $400,000 more in prize money, and just one win away from triggering Vanessa's $2 million payout. The tension boiled over. Vanessa, now in full damage control mode, started selling off chunks of her bet. She offered 25-1 odds to anyone willing to take action against Mercier winning a third bracelet. She was hedging like crazy, trying to spread the risk before her bankroll got wiped out. This wasn't just about side action anymore. It was about pride, reputation, and how poker players treat each other when things get uncomfortable. And with 2 bracelets in hand, Jason Mercier was now chasing history, while Vanessa Selbst was watching her credibility and possibly her career crumble in real time. As Jason Mercier's heater continued and Vanessa Selbst scrambled to hedge, poker Twitter lit up. This was no longer just a private bet gone wrong. It had become one of the most talked about scandals of the year, and the poker community was divided. Daniel Negreanu, never one to stay quiet, weighed in. He said he had never seen someone lay 180-1 odds on a bracelet bet, and coming from someone who'd seen every kind of side action in the game, that said a lot. He didn't name names, but the message was clear. The odds were insane and the bet was reckless. Some pros felt bad for Vanessa. They argued that alcohol clearly played a role and that maybe Mercier should have cut her some slack. After all, what kind of friend enforces a $2 million penalty on a drunk colleague? But others pushed back, hard. Plenty of players pointed out that drunken wagers happen all the time in poker, and once you shake hands, it's done. No refunds, no takebacks. The code of the game doesn't care if you were tipsy, it only cares if you were serious enough to commit. Forum posts on 2+2 exploded, Reddit threads racked up thousands of comments. Some fans accused Vanessa of trying to wiggle out of a bet she couldn't afford. Others called Jason cold, opportunistic, even heartless. But if there was one thing everyone agreed on, it was this. This was no longer about money, it was about principles. Jason believed in the old school rules. You honor your word, no matter the cost. Vanessa believed the context should matter, especially when 7 figures were on the line. And as the World Series rolled on, that ideological clash became bigger than either player. It became a symbol of poker's eternal debate. What matters more, the rules or the people? With 2 bracelets in the bag and a wave of momentum behind him, Jason Mercier was closing in on poker immortality and a massive payout. If he could win a 3rd bracelet, he would collect an estimated $2.5 million from side bets alone, including the $1.8 million owed by Vanessa Selbst. And it wasn't just about the money. A 3rd win would place him among the few legends in World Series of poker history to ever accomplish the feat. His next stop, the $10,000 Omaha High-Low Championship, a game he knew well. He made the final table, the poker world held its breath, but this time it didn't go his way. Jason busted in 8th place, a deep run, but not deep enough. The 3rd bracelet and Vanessa's nightmare had been narrowly avoided, but he didn't stop there. He jumped into event after event, chasing that 3rd title like a man possessed. Each tournament took a little more energy, each near miss wore him down. He entered the $5,000 No Limit Hold'em event, a massive field of over 800 entries. He was eliminated on day 1. He cashed in a few others, even made another final table, but that golden 3rd bracelet remained out of reach. Then, something unexpected happened.
Because I got the idea after I won my 2nd bracelet that, if I made another deep run and actually won the 3rd bracelet, that's when I was going to do it. So I went out, got a ring.
In the twist of fate, Jason found himself on the rail, not as a competitor, but as a fiancé in waiting. His girlfriend, Natasha Barber, had made the final table of a major event. She was playing for nearly $800,000 on a bracelet of her own. When she was eliminated in 3rd place, Mercier met her with a hug, and then dropped to one knee. The crowd erupted. She said yes. It was the kind of fairy tale moment that made the poker community, even some of Vanessa's supporters, pause. Whatever you thought about Mercier's cold approach to the bet, this was a side of him that was impossible to hate. But behind the engagement ring and headlines, one fact remained. The third bracelet never came. The bet, at least on paper, had been dodged. But the emotional damage? That was already done. Once the World Series of Poker wrapped up, the dust began to settle. Jason Mercier had narrowly missed the third bracelet, but his performance was still one of the most dominant the game had ever seen. 2 bracelets, 1 runner-up finish, and 11 cashes in total. It was enough to earn him World Series Player of the Year. He walked away with close to $2 million in combined prize money and side action, but that summer would be remembered for more than just his results. It would be remembered for the bet, the tension, the fallout. As for Vanessa Selbst, her reputation took a hit, and it lingered. Although she managed to hedge enough of her bet to avoid total financial ruin, the public perception damage was done. Her Twitter explanation, her plea to be released from the wager, and her attempts to frame the situation around being intoxicated, it all clashed with how poker players are expected to act, especially pros. Within a year, Vanessa began to quietly step back from the game. In late 2017, she announced her retirement from professional poker. She would later take a job at a hedge fund and all but vanish from the tournament circuit. Was the fallout with Mercier the reason she walked away? Not entirely, but it certainly didn't help. Meanwhile, Mercier's life was moving in a different direction. He got married to Natasha, became a father, and started playing fewer live events. He never again matched the scorching pace of 2016, but he didn't have to. His legacy was secure. The strange thing? Neither Jason nor Vanessa ever addressed the bet again in any meaningful way. No joint interviews, no reconciliations, no clarifications, just silence. And in that silence, the story only grew. Poker fans still debate who was right and who was wrong. Was Jason too harsh? Was Vanessa too reckless? Should a handshake hold up in a game where millions are sometimes wagered on a whim? What started as a drunken side bet between 2 of poker's brightest stars ended up being a defining moment for both of them, one that reshaped how fans saw them, and perhaps how they saw each other. Jason Mercier may not have won that third bracelet, but in the eyes of many, he won something bigger. A moral battle over what it means to honor your word in poker. Vanessa Selbst, once seen as untouchable, walked away from the game not long after. Whether it was the backlash or just bad timing, her exit felt like a closing chapter. But poker has always been full of grudges. Some loud, some quiet, and some that never really die. And if you think this feud was intense, wait until you hear about Daniel Negreanu and Annie Duke. That rivalry makes this one look like a handshake. Click here to find out why.